Okay, here's the number 50 interview by Udo, and we're here with Nico. Hi, Nico.
Hello.
Hi, how's your day?
Good, thank you. Good.
All right, and thank you for being with us. And we have a few questions that we'd like to hear what you got to say. The first question will be, would you please summarize New Zealand in 3 words?
Sure. I think I've lived in a few places, and New Zealand's very easy.
Easy.
It's unrealised in a lot of areas, and it's quite fragile, I think.
Quite fragile.
Yeah.
Would you like to explain a little bit more than that?
I think there's a lot about New Zealand that is very special, and it's fragile, and it's not necessarily being looked after or preserved in the right way.
Okay.
Yeah, just a couple of things. Mostly just to do with farming and the land and the way that we do things. Yeah.
That's great. And if you think about the future for New Zealand, summarizing in other 3 words, what would that be?
In 3 words, I think we're a little sleepy right now, so I think being busy is a good word. Potent, so actually doing what we do really well with a lot of energy. I think that's what New Zealand should be, and a bit more welcoming. I think
More
welcoming, not just with bringing in people around the world, but nurturing the people that we have here, and being a bit welcoming with each other. I think, yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
And from what you have said, I'm wondering if there's any person or celebrity at all, or several persons or several celebrities at all, that they can actually sum up with what you have said.
Yeah, this is a tricky one because I was so tempted to put something like Beyonce down, but I probably won't. But Rod Drury, who is CEO of Xero, I think has got the right kind of attitude.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would you like to describe a little more about that?
I think just being quite future focused and open to new ideas, and kind of utilising the team around him very well, I think.
That's great.
Yeah.
Is there any specific thing that you really like or admire about him?
Well, it's him and the company. So the whole idea of the company to use other people's ideas and kind of collaborate and come together to find great solutions is what I like about, and I think that comes a lot from him.
That's great.
Yeah.
Thank you. And imagine you are now traveling in the future, say like in 25 years from now. If you see New Zealand, what's it going to be like?
Right.
What's the big idea, if there's any?
I think New Zealand can be, there's 2 things I think New Zealand could do. One is to be a country that really focuses on shortening the gap between the very wealthy and the very poor. I think New Zealand could do that. And I also think New Zealand could lead the way with kind of sustainable and the right food, like farming practices.
Yes.
Everything from how we farm to waste management from farms. I think we could lead the world in that respect. We're small enough to be able to do it well, and I think we could. Yeah, I think there should be some more investment and focus on doing that.
It's quite refreshing, shortening the gap between the rich and poor, and I'm wondering, could you
sure.
explain that a little bit?
I think in so many ways New Zealand is very easy because we have a welfare system, we have the ability to go and study university and not pay for it up front. We've got a lot of ability to make the most of ourselves if we want to, but generally speaking, if you're a child brought up in a poor family or with parents that don't really know what they're doing, perhaps you miss out on those opportunities. Even though they're sitting right there, they're available to pretty much any New Zealander. So I think focusing on child welfare in particular would perhaps help shorten that gap. So there's all sorts of other stuff like restricting and foreign investment and all that kind of thing. And I don't really know too much about that, I'll be honest. But one thing I do know and is close to my heart is giving children the opportunity, because I just think the focus should be on children, young children.
Children are the future.
Yeah, and it sounds so tacky, but it is. I grew up in West Auckland,
totally agree with you.
and I didn't grow up with very much. My mother was a smart woman, but uneducated and didn't work an awful lot. And I think I was lucky because she was an intelligent woman, and she put a fire in me to go beyond where she could take me. But not a lot of other children I went to school had that, and I don't know how we can affect that, but I think we should.
And that is really powerful. That is really powerful. And thank you.
You're welcome.
And if we have to select a New Zealand company, or is there any at all?
I'm not sure.
Big idea that the company can actually stand for this.
I think,
or any other organization here.
Not that I really know of, but I think some are heading in the right direction. I think, companies are a hard one. Because there's a difference between saying that you're something and actually doing it. You know, like I see bottles of, products and chemicals that are not so bad for the environment, but they're sitting in these plastic bottles that take 200,000 years to biodegrade. I mean, there seems to just be a bit of a missing link. So it's kind of hard to know. It's kind of hard to know exactly what businesses or whatever are actually kind of doing what they say they are, or kind of living on their brand promise. Yeah.
That's great. Thank you. Well, I would like to invite you to close your eyes a bit.
Okay.
So, would you tell me what comes up in your mind when you hear the word New Zealand?
Green, of course, but I see just a lot of green, but I also see a lot of, there's not one person that could kind of represent New Zealand. It's almost like it's just a whole cultural mishmash of people. Like I don't actually see. I think that's kind of what New Zealand is. It's a mash of just so many different kinds of people.
I'm getting the pictures.
Yeah. It's people. Yeah. Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, here we have a relatively giant question.
Okay.
What would you say that could unite humanity?
Humanity. I think when you remove something like cheap sustainable energy that was available around the world, as soon as you kind of got over that barrier, I think a lot of other things would open up. So if that was available, then I think that could maybe change a lot. Yeah, that could hopefully unite us a bit more.
That's great, and thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. And in terms of doing this interview, we're interviewing 100 people this month, and we're doing 1,000 interviews next year.
Wow.
So in terms of this project, how would you think this project would help you? In terms of
help me?
Yeah.
I think it's interesting, working in branding like I do, you're constantly developing a point of view or a reputation for somebody. You're helping to shape what that is. And having the kind of insight from everyday New Zealanders about what New Zealand actually means is actually quite an amazing thing, because especially if we're working on a brand that's exporting out to the world, what message are we selling, or is actually authentic? So perhaps I could use it in that respect. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Good insight.
Yeah.
In terms of what you've been doing. That's
yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
And so far, and I think and thank you for your time. And
You're welcome.
And
good luck.
Yeah, and you too. Have a nice day.
One tiny question, which is not on the list.
Okay.
it's sort of a pay it forward question, which flowed from Liam and I having a conversation. So if Udo could be of service to you and interview one person, so that's what we're saying to everyone, we'll really try to interview somebody who you would like to hear from. So somebody we spoke to before, you said Rob Fife, so
right, New Zealand
so,
CEO.
So we just wanted to invite you to think about, and it doesn't have to be anyone, it could be, you know, it's just
I would
someone.
I would go down to West Auckland and I would talk to some 7 or 8 year old girl. That's what I would do.
Okay, that's good. Is there any particular school or part of West Auckland you would encourage us to go?
No, I mean, I think move away from the centre of the city and go. You could go out south if you wanted to, but I'd speak to some young kids. That's what I'd do.
Okay, we'll do that.
Yeah, well, that'd be great.
We'll do that.
Cool.
You'll have our word on that.
Oh, wonderful, great.
That's all. Thank
Wonderful,
you.
thank you very much. Okay.